Imagination is the through line of all human creation. From storybook characters to scientific discoveries, imagination is essential to being human. But in Altered, those imaginations live lives of their own. In the world of Altered, invisible to any mortal being, exists the Imperium, the realm of imagination. This realm is close to reality, but unable to be touched by physical forms. This space encapsulates every thought, idea, story, and concepts humans have thought up of since time immemorial. Humans interact with it daily, a symbiotic relationship. The Empyrean giving humans dreams and inspirations, and in return it is influenced by everything people create, an infinite feedback loop of imagination and creativity, forever evolving both realms, pushing reality forward to new discoveries and new stories to tell. Separating the two worlds is the veil, keeping the aether, the magic of the immaterial, from mixing with the quintessence, the magic of the physical. At least, that's what it has always done. In an event now known as the confluence, the veil fractured, letting the ever-changing aether affect reality. In an instant, cities were toppled and transformed into lands of stories, dreams, and nightmares. And for the unfortunate humans that got stuck in the aether currents, they were transformed into horrors of the human mind, statues of salt, or paths to be stepped on, even vicious creatures. This world was changed forever in a single day. Those who survived the initial breaking of the veil had to find a way to survive the erratic and uncontrollable storm of the aether, called the tumult, that changed the landscape every time it passed over, destroying all reality that exists there in a furious storm. The early survivors became known as the Tumult Nomads, learning how to traverse this new and dangerous world, being able to predict and move around the tumult storms and find hidden safe haven oases scattered throughout the world, places where the tumult wouldn't reach. These nomads began to create factions together, forming ideals and strategies to survive in this extremely harsh and forever changed world. There was another force at work though, those of the Oniri. These were creatures of the Imperium, literal manifestations of our imagination. From Amaterasu to Dorothy Gale, these memories of stories that were once told began to fade. Without humans telling their stories, they became less real, and if the stories that begot them were to be forgotten, they would simply not exist. For the stories we tell don't just live on paper or enter the world through our voice, they become a part of us. So, the Oniri started communicating with the human factions, and because of their experience with the aether and the ever-changing nature of the tumult, they were able to help the humans survive and thrive, hoping to keep the myth that they exist from alive for ages to come. The Oniri knew of an oasis that was fairly large and could protect the Tumult Nomads for a long period of time. The Oniri gave instructions to each of the factions of how to get to this oasis and how to make it their new permanent home. 6 factions of humans made it to the oasis on the peninsula. Once they were there, they began to form a community, trying their best to live together in one shared area. The factions, all led to this oasis by the Oniri, had to learn to work together as one to thrive. Shortly after arrival, they formed the Concord, a decree to become one people, and they founded Asgartha, the nation on the peninsula, their safe haven. The humans in Asgartha finally had a small amount of safety from the tumult and were able to restart civilization, exploring the peninsula and discovering what this new world had in store for them. Initially, this would be a slow endeavor, But over the next couple centuries, some interesting developments were made. The first of these is that with the imagination and reality blending together, that if one had a truly imaginative thought, that for a moment it could reveal itself in a physical form. Another discovery was that when the tumult storm rips through an area, transforming it, little blue orbs called mana are left behind. Mana works as the glue that holds quintessence of the physical and aether of the imagination together. When the tumult tears those apart and reforms it into something new, mana is left behind. Later, it was discovered that one could use this mana to make their thoughts gain a physical form by gluing the aether of their imagination to the quintessence from around them. This became known as alteration. Alteration was incredibly difficult and required a lot of skill and training and more discoveries to come to reach its full potential. But with enough practice, one could create true thought forms called eidolons. These eidolons could be characters imagined from one's memories or the myths and stories of the past. Depending on the skill of the alterer, these eidolons could be manifested for an extended period of time, even gaining a sense of self to them, having their own personality that is influenced by the alterer's own. The last step in this equation would take some more time to figure out. There is a living being called a chimera in this world. Chimeras are resilient to the tumult and have adapted well to this new and dangerous environment. When they pass through a tumult storm, their form would change, shifting between different appearances and possibly personalities. Some of them are aggressive and others skittish, still others friendly. Some alterers became friends with these chimera, and it was found out a human could bond with one through a ceremony known as the musubi, where two beings could link their essences. This allowed the alterer and the chimera to have shared thoughts and abilities. Once a chimera is bonded, its appearance could not shift again, even in the tumult. These bonded pairs were named exalts. With the last step to beginning to master alteration, alterers and their new chimera companions finally felt that they were able to overcome the tumult and begin to explore this vast and unknown world outside of Asgartha. Nearly 400 years after the six factions first arrived at the Peninsula Oasis and Asgartha was formed, was it time to go back out into the world and uncover its secrets. Basilius Avcon Rune Heskari announced the rediscovery endeavor 25 years prior. Preparations and training had been underway since, but now it was finally time. Each faction bringing forth their own exalts, ready to brave the tumult and see what their world has turned into over the last 5 centuries. The Solstice Gate will be opened once again, and beyond the gates, who knows what they will find. Maybe these unknown lands will reveal a way to stop the tumult. Maybe there will be more powers like alteration to discover. Only time will tell. Basilius Avcon Rune Heskari's proclamation on the day the gates were opened. Our roots are anchored in travel, for we are the heirs of the tumult nomads. From their wanderings, we know that other oases exist in this world, waiting to be reinforced. Our allies from the Empyrean believe that other Oniri surely await within the Terra Incognita, waiting to be found, and who knows, perhaps there are other pockets of human civilization, survivors, brothers and sisters waiting to join us. Beyond our borders, there's still a world waiting to be rediscovered, filled with wonders and dangers.